indeed. We just had that update from Patch Clap a little while ago about Jasper, the cyclone. It's now been declared a cyclone. It's obviously not a great threat yet, but it will build, they say, to a 3 or a 4, and pretty quickly too. And it's headed, well, south-southwest, so it's headed loosely towards the Queensland coast. Whereabouts on the Queensland coast, nobody knows. Now, those of us who've been around for a while, you know, you keep your eyes peeled, you keep your ears peeled, you start preparing your house, etc. We all know those fundamentals, but we haven't actually been faced with a significant threat for quite a while, so we'll be going through the fundamentals over the next day or two of what we need to be doing. It's not expected to represent a significant threat just yet, so we've got time to prepare. Now, this is also good luck, because I've got actually Brad Heath on the line. Brad's the Managing Director, Sure Insurance, and of course, if you're an insurance company covering people in Queensland, particularly North Queensland, you're across all the fundamentals of what we need to be doing to strengthen our homes and make sure our residents up here are kept safe in a situation like this. Is on the line? Yes, he is set to go. Hello, Brad.
Good morning, John.
This is very timely, by the way. I've just been off with Patch Clap. I've just got off the phone from him, and he's saying, well, it's headed loosely towards us. It's no threat at the moment, but it is going to be building in strength. We've got no idea, though, what part, if any, of the Queensland coast is going to be threatened. Nonetheless, you've been around long enough, I've been around long enough, and listeners have been, most of them too, to know that you can't take anything for granted with these bloody things. What are your thoughts at the moment?
Well, that's right. We don't know if it'll cross the coast, where it'll cross the coast. There's about 4 different models that you can look at to determine where you think it's going to hit. The fact, though, is, as you say, it's really about being prepared, and everyone in regional Queensland is somewhat used to that. It's been a few years since we had one cross the coast into a big populated area. This one doesn't look like it might be the one, but look, anything can happen. So what we would say is being prepared and taking the time to look at those fundamental things that everyone knows, such as gutters, making sure they're clear, making sure that the roof is in good condition, all those sort of things that really should be being done all the time anyway to protect you even from storms is what we'd recommend.
The one that I remember when I first came north, and we were getting warnings about, I can't remember which particular cyclone it was, and they said, if you've got a pool, go out and throw all your furniture in the pool. And I said, why would you take your furniture out of the house to put in the pool? And they meant, of course, outdoor furniture around the pool. And I thought, if you weren't a resident of North Queensland, you'd be scratching your head and saying, well, why would you be doing that? Until, of course, you've been in the strength of winds that sometimes it's 100 plus kilometres an hour. Then you realise why your pool furniture has to go into the pool.
Exactly right. One of the biggest things in cyclone that does cause damage and hopefully not injury is flying debris. Clearly, there's a lot of loose things in everyone's yards and that, so they're just getting rid of those. And they're the sort of things that can be blown through windows and downstairs areas and that sort of thing. So pushing them into the pool is a good thing. We often see people as well filling their tinnies up with water, to at least have a supply of some level of fresh water, for washing or all sorts of things, and it also stops the boat being blown away as well with a belly full of water in it. So people up there in regional Queensland are very, 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 very prepared for this sort of thing. But there is always those basics, as we said, gutters, making sure loose items are moved, overhanging tree branches so they're not crashing into houses or helping the tree fall over a bit more easy. Just the basic things like that to minimise the risk. We probably expect a fair bit of storm activity out of this, even if it doesn't cross the coast.
Oh, okay.
What we see in these, and we saw it with things like Cyclone Debbie, even in areas where it didn't cross the coast, it still caused a fair bit of damage into surrounding areas. Just akin to a normal storm damage with wind and rain. So this is also the time to make sure your insurance is up to date and you've got the right sum insured.
I've been doing these things for a long time, but you just got me with a new one, Brad. You said, good idea is fill the tinny up with water. I haven't heard of that one before. Well, it's,
tinnies can be blown away, particularly if they're on trailers, and we've seen them in the past end up in neighbouring yards and into houses and that sort of thing. So filling it up with water, A, stops it getting away, because obviously there's a lot of water in it, but B, even for washing and just general use, if water supply is impacted, you've got a little bit of a supply of water there too, and easily drained, of course, if you don't need it.
Interesting too, not too many weeks ago, Peter Cosgrove was in town too, and of course he oversaw the reconstruction down there in Innisfail, and there were a whole lot of fundamentals people missed out on. Why? Because we don't have a lot of practice of them actually crossing the coast in our midst. But another thing that people have to be aware of, are you going to be able to buy things, they can't just go to the hole in the wall. Why? Because power's often down quite an extended period of time. So that's another thing. Some of the things you need around the house too that people overlook, Brad, over the years, what are some of the things you've actually heard about? For example, after the approach of a cyclone, people said, if only I'd gone to the shop and got such and such.
Well, one of the first ones is prescription medication, making sure you're not about to run out of it. So certainly go and make sure your prescription medication. I mean, clearly, if you don't need it, don't rush the chemist, but because supply will be resumed. But that sort of thing can be very important. Basics such as batteries,
yes,
those sort of things to enable you to keep going. Even if you can get some of those little emergency batteries for your mobile phone. This is often a problem of charging the mobile phone if power's down for a while.
Yeah.
So those sort of things can be very useful. And just the basic supplies to keep you going for a while. Obviously the canned goods, long life milk, that sort of thing. And people generally go and get that sort of thing anyway. And the big one, of course, is always water. Making sure you've got a supply of fresh water. I know when I've been up in the past following Larry and Yassi, we usually fill the car with as many cartons of water as we can to hand out while we're running around talking to people. Because, getting water can be an issue. It's not always the case. It's got to be a pretty serious cyclone to impact water supply, but it does happen. They're the fundamentals just to keep you going for those few days. Power, water and food is really the things that are the cornerstones of our lives nowadays, I suppose.
This is terrific, actually, being able to talk to you, because you've had the experience. You were around with Larry, you were around with Yazzie, etc., and that's critically important. Can I just ask you this one, because people always bring it up. They say, we let our insurance slip because it's been so tough financially lately. Is it too late to go to ring Bradley Heath and organise insurance today? As I understand it, once the cyclone has been named, it's too late, or no?
No, it's not. If you're taking out insurance and you haven't previously had insurance for a while, there is a 72-hour delay on cover for storm and that sort of thing, as people appreciate. We're not going to insure houses when there's a cyclone about to cross the coast in 6 hours' time. But what we would suggest is if people want to take out policies now with us, then we think now is probably the time to do it. Ring up and get a quote. It doesn't cost anything to do that. Clearly, the cyclone's not going to be here, if it does arrive at all, until next Monday or Tuesday. So there is plenty of time involved. If people are moving from one policy to another, then that waiting period doesn't apply. But what we would suggest is if people want to go and get their cover up to date now's the time to do it. And even for those that are insured with other people, go and contact your insurer to make sure your sum insured is adequate and make sure you're ready to go with that. But we're not placing embargoes on at the moment. That's not. Still, for us, it's business as usual. And if people want to take out a policy, they can.
Now, this is a tricky one too, and lots of people with pools, if you come from the south, you walk around under a shade cloth and you never look up. Please look up and realise that that's going to be one of the first things that gets ripped down if indeed we get a 3 or a 4 through cans. Obviously, it's one of those matters. Is that covered by insurance generally, Bradley, or not?
In terms of
if your shade cloth comes down and gets ripped to shreds.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, no, it is for sure covered in the terms of the policy. Often what happens, often cyclones, when they do cross the coast, if they don't hit directly particularly, still cause damage across a several 100-kilometre radius, and everyone up there knows that. And the things that tend to get damaged in that situation are things like pergolas, shade cloths, often sheds, outlying sheds, TV aerials, maybe a bit of loose guttering. Those sort of things are just a little bit vulnerable, even in a storm. Those sort of things are going to be a problem for a big storm or a cyclone that's a bit far away. So securing all those sort of things, really important, making sure that they're tied down. And in many cases, we see people take shade cloths off pools leading up to events and store them because they know
Yes,
they're going
exactly.
to use anyway. So if they're easily, what we always say, if you're going to check your roof, you're going to check your gutters and clear them out, particularly of leaves, and that to stop overflowing from torrential rain. Safety is still very important. We would hate to see someone get injured in that process. It's ladder safety and all that sort of thing. People know about that, but don't put yourself at risk either. There is no bit of property worth putting yourself at risk personally.
Talking of shade cloth too, in the past I've used pickers and they take it down before the emergency and put it back up after the emergency has passed. But I presume there's various companies do that sort of thing all over the place, are there, Brad? Shade cloth.
There are. I mean, I think ring them up if you can get that done. It's trades are always at a premium before, during, and after an event.
Yes.
So this is why regular maintenance for these things. We keep pushing, particularly gutters, making sure it's not just your standard gutters. It's also gutters in unit blocks where you've got internal gutters in the roofs, drains, and that sort of thing, where the valleys go into box drains. They're often out of sight.
Okay.
And keeping them free flowing in these events, and even in, as we say, just even in torrential rain. The good thing in North Queensland is we find houses are tested regularly for leaks because there is the rainy season and because you do have that weather outside of even cyclones. So people up there are pretty good at keeping it right, but it's just if you think you've got an issue, now's the time to fix it while the weather's still fine.
This has been really worthwhile this morning, Bradley. Fingers crossed we won't have to get back to you urgently again. But if there is an issue, I hope you're prepared to pick up the phone at 2:30 or 3 in the morning, because we go 24 hours if there's a crisis, and I'll probably need you to step in.
Always prepared to do that, John. One of the things you see in an insurance operation like ours is the team pretty much comes alive at this point. People are running around everywhere at the moment, making sure staff are on duty, and we're making sure our sales team are ready to take claim calls, so they'll drop the sales process and go straight into claims process. The team, I wouldn't say they live for this, but I think the team does know this is their moment to shine, and this is what the promise is all about from shore. If we can't service the claims in an event, then people aren't going to be very happy with us. So This is our moment to prove to people that we are able to respond to this sort of thing. So I can assure you, there's a lot of activity here at the moment, and a lot of things happening, and people are ready for it. And we know it's 7 days, 7 times 24 when this happens. We're ready for that, and so is our service providers too.
This has been excellent as an update today, Bradley. Appreciate this. Thank you.
Thanks, John.
That's Brad Heath. He's the Managing Director of Sure, S-U-R-E, Sure Insurance. It's 27 to 11.